some time with Brett there. I also wanted to play this moment, Harris. You asked a room of women, how many of you are concerned about biological men and women's sports? Every single hand went up. I saw that. Let's play it so viewers see it.
Addressing the transgender issue in women's sports. I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Well, it's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. I mean, physically, from a muscular state, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else.
How do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just
Council?
ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen.
Kind of common sense, he framed it as.
Yeah, and we talked about in some issues like this, when do you do something by executive order? Look, eventually you're going to have to, Kaylee, you and I both know this, do something in a congressional effort, and level, because presidents go back and forth in different things. And look at the mess of the border right now, because they flipped 94 policies of Donald Trump the minute that Biden and Kamala Harris got into office. So you are going to have to do something with more longevity, but for him on this particular issue, it has popped now onto the spectrum because young girls and women are getting hurt. And it's happening with more regularity now as the sport decides that it wants to let, people who identify as women but are biological men into the sport. And we're different biologically. So he's really looking at this issue, and I know he would want to do something at an executive issue, but at the same time, to make things stick. And so he's going to need down ballot some support with Republicans taking over. And I want you just real quickly, if you'll give me a moment, pay attention to that senatorial race in Pennsylvania between McCormick and incumbent Senator Bob Casey. Don't sleep on that, because if Republicans can get even a 1 or 2, they might not get a mandate, but they'll get a majority in the Senate. If they do that, it tends to track with his popularity as well. Could he take the state of Pennsylvania? Just watch it.
Yeah, that one in Wisconsin, where we're seeing the numbers trend towards Trump, trend towards Republicans there in the Senate too. Huge races to watch. We talk about domestic policy, but we can't leave without playing these moments on foreign policy, Harris, because it's very clear there were no new wars under President Trump. There are ample new wars under Biden, and President Trump made the case October 7th, and some of the maladies we've seen on the globe would not have happened under his leadership. Let's watch that moment.
I'm a wife and a mom, but I'm also a 4th-generation Army veteran. So my question for you today is this. How do we restore peace in the world through American strength while also putting America first here at home?
Right.
I'm concerned that we're still stationed and deployed in Germany, Korea, Japan, NATO, all over the Middle East defending other countries, but we've never been weaker globally or here at home. So how do we get back to a position of strength without having to be the world's police force?
I have the answer. I love you. Write my foreign policy, please, because what you just... I was bringing troops back home. I got out of Syria. I defeated ISIS because it was the only one. I started no new wars, as you know. For 79 years, this had not happened. No new wars. I finished off ISIS. It was supposed to take 5 years.
Defeated ISIS, one of many accomplishments.
Look, the choices are very stark here between a man who has been president and had no wars. Russia had not had a time under a recent president in this open era where they didn't move in on a neighbor, except for when he was on watch as commander-in-chief. So those are just facts. And you look at that resume up against Kamala Harris now, current VP, who has an opportunity to have a resume on these issues, since she always says she's the last person in the room when Joe Biden is making the big decisions, foreign, domestic, whatever they are. She's always there. She's got the acumen to do it. But does she have the ability to do it is the question. You can check some boxes, but have you done it? Can you do it? And so that's a stark difference. I mean, you've been in the White House. You were there with him. You know what I'm talking about. It's real-time experience is great. We're going to need that now. There are 2 wars going on under this current administration.
And high stakes. Fantastic questions, Harris. Fascinating answers. Everyone go back and watch it if you haven't seen it so far. Fantastic.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Yes.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-host Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.
If you need a high-performance portable generator at an unbeatable value, check out Predator Generators from Harbor Freight. Whether you need a generator to power your outdoor recreation fun, heavy-duty job site tools, or to keep the lights on at home, there's a Predator Generator for you. Choose from traditional portable generators, super quiet efficient inverter generators, and even multi-fuel generators. When you need the power to do more, Predator is as good as the best for a whole lot less. Only at Harbor Freight.
I don't think that Rusty would be here today if it wasn't for the farmer's dog. He was always a dry kibble dog because that was all we knew growing up, and so I thought the kibble has less preservatives and everything else. It's actually the exact opposite. A lot of cold issues, digestive issues. He stopped eating the dog food. That's what got me on to looking for alternatives, and once I got to the farmer's dog, those constant, regular issues, I don't have them. He not only eats everything in the bowl, but he licks the bowl practically clean. Everyone at the vet, every time we go, they're like, oh my gosh, he's how old? Yeah, he's 60. I think it's helped keep him healthier longer. By the numbers, there's no comparison, the value of giving your dog a healthy diet. And it's really simple, and it works. I'm here for that.
Today in Georgia, Donald Trump sat down for a town hall with an all-female audience. They would have asked me to appear, but they didn't want everyone fainting. Of course, Kamala also wanted to do a town hall with just women, but her staff couldn't define one. After banning pub crawls due to public complaints, people are accusing Prague of becoming a nanny state. Did someone say nanny? Asked one man. According to a newly revised FBI stats, violent crime in America has actually gone up, not down, as Democrats claim. Kamala Harris is now promising that if elected, she will ban math. Reports say Donald Trump may work at a McDonald's during a campaign stop in PA. Meanwhile, Kamala will also spend a day at a job she's never worked, vice president. Thank you. According to a report from the Public Interest Legal Foundation, hundreds of Arizona voters allegedly registered to vote using strip clubs, abortion clinics, and high schools as home addresses. Or as Hunter calls it, great places to meet babes. According to a new documentary, Christopher Columbus may have been Jewish. Yeah, instead of searching for a new route to the Far East, he was only looking for a restaurant that's open on Christmas. And finally, a Disney World cake shop is under fire for having prices that start at $22 per slice. You mean I have to spend $220 for dinner? Asks one man. No. Why not? He loves it. All right. So Border Patrol agents are vowing that they're going to leave in droves if Kamala wins in November. This follows the earlier endorsement of Donald Trump by the Border Patrol Union. Strange, you think the person labeled the border czar would have had this endorsement all sewn up. She should have been a shoo-in, like me for best abs at the Teen Choice Awards. I got robbed. Truth is, all these Border Patrol officers fleeing their jobs will be joining a herd of others fleeing their life's work because they know the Dems don't want them doing it. It's mostly men fleeing traditional male jobs, cops, firemen, teamsters, jobs that often involve serious physical labor or upper body strength. You know, I never realized it before, but upper body strength is kind of sexist. I guess God was misogyny. No, I didn't know. Bottom line, Those who go into professions like these do it for the mission, not the money. There's not a buttload of Border Patrol whose other car is a Lamborghini. And if you take that mission away by denigrating the work they do, you can expect a rush for the exits that you usually see at a Jets game by the third quarter. And the Dems are wondering why they're doing poorly with men. Well, you can try not labeling their central purpose as evil, maybe less redefining and more respecting. Stop saying they're whipping people when it's just Larry Kudlow. Now, what if the teachers or nurses unions made a similar statement that if Trump were elected, they would walk off the job? Can you imagine the level of media hand-wringing, screeching about Trump not valuing the work of these heroes? And yes, I know there are male nurses and teachers. They're always hitting on me. And there are female cops and firefighters, too. Although I would prefer it's a man who carries me out of my burning apartment, preferably Ryan Gosling. But whatever your gender is, I respect you for doing these jobs. I don't want to do them, that's for sure. You think I want to run up a flight of stairs into a burning building to grab my bodybuilding trophies? That's what personal assistants are for, and I'm going to wait in a limo. Thank you very much. But we need these jobs, and the Dems need to stop villainizing them. How demoralized does the Border Patrol feel? Well, according to the Washington Examiner, they've lost more than 4,000 personnel since 2020. That's almost 20% of their workforce. Meanwhile, police departments nationwide cannot recruit or retain their headcount. It's the hidden version of defunding. Tens of thousands of cop salaries have been saved because they never took the job to begin with. They made it a job Americans truly don't want to do, like working for Kamala Harris. She's lost more employees than the Titanic. Frankly, it's a miracle any cop still shows up for work. AOC must be skipping down Broadway with her bodyguard. Thanks to no cash bail and other criminal poverty reforms, arrested crooks are back on the street before you can say, hey, where the is my wallet? But imagine that whatever you do for a living is every day undone before your day is over. I think my writers can relate to that. But what would that do to your morale? How must it feel to stand out on the southern border under the baking sun, trying to guard the nation from illegal entrants, only to be told that you're the problem? Remember this gem from Kamala?
Listen, I think there's no question that we've got to critically re-examine ICE and its role and the way that it is being administered and the work it is doing, and we need to probably think about starting from scratch because there's a lot that is wrong with the way that it's conducting itself, and we need to deal with that.
Now, to be fair, she is a moron. But, I feel dirty, and I should. But the entire agency charged with handling cartels and other migrant criminals is, in Kamala world, what's really illegal. Maybe that's why Customs and Border Patrol had 15 suicides in 2022 alone, forcing them to hire their first suicidologist. I think The View had to hire one for all of those men working their cameras. But that's what happens when the mission loses its value. When you're not only told that the work you believed in is evil, but that you've been the bad guy all along. And yes, generally, that means God, as in those evil monsters with the Y chromosome lumbering around among us. So the Dems and the media can try to redefine masculinity all they want. They can pay actors to play real men for Kamala all day long. But it's failing, because no matter who wins next month, the real truth is, real men and real women know how much we need Border Patrol officers and men like them. The truth is, we can't do without them. And like Kamala. She knows polls and crushes Democrat souls. GOP strategist Eric Marini. He does his back-to-school shopping at the pawn shop. Comedian Rich Vaughn. The FBI put her on the pregnancy watch list. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Ken Tiff. And he brushes his teeth with a street sweeper. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NFL center. And I see this trend among these male-centric unions, all either not endorsing Kamala, which is an endorsement, or endorsing Trump. How does this affect the race if it doesn't all owe Republican expert?
Yes, well, it flies in the notion that a lot of the media puts out there, especially the left-wing media, that these union types, these blue-collar workers, that these are hard and fast Democrats. We have seen a shift within the Republican Party, especially within the last 10 years, more toward a blue-collar worker mentality. So while the leadership of these unions might say that they are for Democrats, the rank-and-file members break very hard toward Republicans, and those numbers continue to come this way. When you see the vilification of Border Patrol agents by Kamala Harris, who has never apologized, when she said that they were whipping migrants at the border, she akin that to slavery in the United States. But what has she ever done to actually turn around and tell the agents, I'm sorry, the work you do matters to this country? Democrats, this is just one example of how flippantly out of hand they treat hardworking American people. This is just one example of what they think of everyday American people. And so all of a sudden they're shocked that these people aren't going to matter, that these people aren't going to support them in the election. And in an election this close, where it is going to be dozens of voters in a small number of precincts across the country that are going to make the difference, them insulting rank and file voters, them insulting blue collar workers, them insulting the people that stock the grocery store shelves or protect the border, that's why they're going to lose.
Rich, are you upset that she took all your talking points?
Whoa. Here's the difference of educated and me. The difference is, I don't know why I'm just like Stallone from Rocky IV, but nobody's leaving their jobs. Like, Rose O'Donnell, if Trump's elected, I'm leaving the country. Okay, well, get on a cargo plane and go. All right, who's gonna miss you? Your barber? And like, I had a blowout fight with my wife.
Right.
And I said to her, I go, leave, move out. Here's $100,000. And she said that's not enough. And I realized, never make your final offer first. Okay? That's the thing. No one's leaving. No one's going anywhere. Oh, I'm going to leave and go where? To Uganda? Where the hell? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just shut up and stay.
But you know what? They're not leaving the country. They're leaving their job. Let me put it this way, Rich. You're a comedian. What if you're used to getting what if after every night of work people tell you you're awful?
I would stop having my family come to shows. Listen, what I do well. I'm not, listen, I deal with crazy club owners. I go, well, but look, they're not going to leave their job. They might deal with it different, but I'm going to leave and start a new occupation at 47, 52. You know what I mean? It's just whatever. I don't get it. I don't get it. And the border, when Trump, he was going to build a wall, which I was selling catapults in Mexico, so that business failed, and it's time to move on.
No, that wall's coming back, Rich. So get your catapult business ready. We're going to send you back there, even though you're not really from Mexico. Kat, it seems like we talked about this gender gap. Women don't want to vote for Trump, men don't want to vote for Harris. Which one's worse? Do you care?
I don't know that either one's a worse. I think that it is interesting. What's interesting to me about this is that she is even trying, it seems, to present herself as a tough on the border person. I don't know. I mean, that's Trump's whole thing.
Yeah.
It's so much his thing that there's people who don't feel that way, and that's one of the main reasons why some people don't like her. Even though public opinion has shifted in that area, which is why she's doing it. But that's so much his thing, I don't know why. If you want to talk about fighting with somebody, it's like, have you ever been in a relationship where you
Church of Jesus Christ.
Come on in. My wife has pie in the oven. I will go and check on this pie. If you wish to leave, you must choose which door to go through.
What happens if we choose the wrong door?
Where you know, like, you're fighting all the time, but at one point you'll f up so bad that you're like, it's not even worth fighting anymore, I'm just done.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that she hasn't kind of taken that point of view of it yet.
Yeah.
Because you're really going to think that anybody who's like, you know what, my main thing is I'm really tough on the border, and that's why I'm voting Kamala. That's not happening.
But you know what? May I be sexist for this one moment?
Oh,
Women never give up. No, women never give. Like what you said is like when I go, okay, I just give up. But I've never been in a fight with a woman where they've actually given up. They postpone.
well,
They postpone.
Yeah.
And they bring it back for a later date.
For the rest of your days. Yes.
well, that's maybe...
The last fight I had with my wife, she flied across the sky on a broom and it said, "Surrender Richard." Okay.
If she's bothering to fight with you, that means she still cares. That's what I'm saying. If she doesn't, then she won't do that.
All right, Iris. Last word to you.
I was so insulted by her sitting in that chair, having absolutely no knowledge of what she was talking about, but still had the temerity to talk about how bad ICE was. That with no actual anything to back it up. I've heard things like they were so unfit. I don't understand. I couldn't even say this, but I miss Hillary Clinton. No, I do, because even though I didn't agree with I don't agree with any of her policies, but I understood. I knew she was going to lead. I might not like the direction, but she could lead and she could speak, and at least she would know this. She has absolutely no idea what she's talking about, and it's so disingenuous. Like I said, I was on TV today on Fox. I said, if Trump doesn't win, I'll shave my beard. Like I have. This election is not close. This behavior. You know what? It's not the beard that makes this go. Just so you know. But the point is that she's so uninformed. To Kat's point, to where she will arrogantly be like, "Oh, I've always been on the board." Like we have not been here drowning in your word salad. Your dry word salad with no sauces at all, Kat.
I will join you. If Kamala wins, I will shave my back. But right now, it's just one big furry driveway. Park it any way you like. I don't even know what that means. Doesn't matter. Up next, Kamala frets.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Very special moment for you. Good evening, everyone. So, the porn industry has launched a $100,000 ad campaign in support of Kamala Harris. Makes sense. They're both known for sucking. But it does seem a bit ungrateful for porn stars to throw their support behind Harris. I mean, that's the thank Trump gets after all the money he's given to them?
They got their food and water.
The FBI thwarted an election day terror attack plot in the name of ISIS. Evidently, their destructive plan was to vote for Kamala Harris. Harris appeared on Stephen Colbert's show, where the host asked if she'd drink a Miller High Life with him. Normally, when she sits down with a cold one, it's Joe Biden. Yeah, because he's dead. Colbert asked her what she would do differently than Biden. She said she's not Joe Biden or Donald Trump. The sad part, she had to look at her driver's license first. She also appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plaster." New York Times opinion piece says we should abandon the idea of masculinity. "I'm way ahead of you," said one man. Tampons! According to a poll, 80% of Americans believe World War III is just around the corner. Meanwhile, the other 20% of Americans fear the possibility of this man around the corner. And finally, a flight bound for Turkey had to make an emergency landing at JFK after the captain died on board. Did someone say Turkey? Asked one man. So the New York Times now claims that even this new so-called positive masculinity of progressive men sucks too. The article is written by a feminist named Ruth Whitman. Perfect name if you ask me. I guess Sarah Ballcrusher was taken. So we can forget toxic masculinity. Now even positive masculinity is the problem. Quote, "After the cartoon supervillainy of Donald Trump and the smarmy misogyny of J.D. Vance, the positive masculinity of Walt and his ilk is a joyful relief. But for the next generation of boys, we might do better to ditch the masculinity rhetoric altogether." I know. She adds that the idea that boys must use masculinity as a constant reference point for their own value is harmful to them and others. Whatever, lady. Well, look, what do you expect from the mindset that thinks women can sport a 5 o'clock shadow, but then mock women who want to be good wives and mothers? They can no longer define a woman, so what the hell do they know about men? Sadly, the left's only real masculinity these days is coming from their admirals. But look, having a liberal feminist write about masculinity is like having a vegan review the Outback Steakhouse. She'll make everyone in the place miserable, and you can't trust her with a knife. But it is funny, after 300,000 years of functional biology featuring both male and female organisms, in just the last few decades, we have thoughtful experts deciding that all of that is wrong. What an about-face. It's not unlike Howard Stern. I mean, talk about a transition. On Tuesday, he conducted an interview with Kamala Harris that was so simpering and feminine, I got my period while listening to it. You should hear what keeps him up at night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. You know, to keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro. What's funny, though, is that Stern actually thought that was a compliment. Stern has become such a wussified sycophant, he doesn't realize that telling Kamala that he'd vote for a wall is telling her that he knows she's as dumb as one. I mean, not to mention Trump is the wall candidate, not Cackle's McKnee pads. Stern got even more pathetic, wondering how she doesn't nap.
When you said you don't nap, I get it, because like what you've taken on is extraordinarily difficult. And I mean, do you feel the pressure of the moment in the sense that, like when I met you out in the hall, I said, I'm really nervous because I want this to go well for you. I want it to go well for the country.
Hold on. I need a minute. We're back. Now remember, Stern used to throw bologna slices at strippers' butts. With accuracy, I might add. Now he's worried the possible leader of the free world can't handle his verbal foot rub. I wonder if he used to get this nervous for the strippers before he'd spank them on their bare asses with a dead fish. Here's Stern on anyone daring to poke a little fun at Kamala.
Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of. There's too much at stake. I believe the entire future of this country right now. I mean, as America, land of the free, home of the brave, I think it's literally on the line.
So a guy who's supposed to be funny for a living now claims her candidacy is too important to joke about. This is a guy who once joked right after the Columbine massacre that the killers should have raped the students before killing them. Not that I like that Stern, but this pendulum swing from saying the most tasteless thing in the universe to putting your balls in a Tic Tac container. You gotta wonder what's going on here. It's striking that the king of the most misogynistic humor ever now turns into a breathless over a progressive, hopelessly shallow candidate. But maybe that's the explanation. This is Stern's self-imposed penance for subjugating women to demoralizing stunts, capitalizing on desperate females thirsting for attention, even if it's from an oily paddle striking their bare asses. True, much of Stern's transformation is based mainly on a delusional hatred for Trump, but it's also coming from a bottomless hatred for himself and his past. And he's projected his loathing onto Trump, which gains him accolades from his Hamptons neighbors and his new pal Jimmy Kimmel, who's also doing penance for his sins of the past. But is Howard simply redefining masculinity? And why is it always the male lefties who are so desperate to get rid of masculinity entirely? It's guilt and self-preservation. Because scrape beneath the surface of any liberal male, and what do you find? A creep, terrified of his priggish past. Piggish past, I mean, not priggish. What is priggish? And that fear turns them into obedient mouthpieces for a completely unqualified candidate. They desperately forfeit logic and reason, and with that, all traces of masculinity. And so, Howard, you've been in therapy for, what, 50 years? And I just diagnosed your problem in one monologue. No worries, the first visit is free. Locker room reporter has seen more junk than Sanford and Son. Host of Michelle Tafoya podcast, Michelle Tafoya. A chef named Gruel is like a doctor named Malpractice. Chef and restaurateur Andrew Gruel. He looks like a guy with a UTI. Comedian Adam Hunter. She eats from a ladle and just bought a cradle. New York Times bestselling author, postage contributor, Captain. Michelle, you're a woman. Or so you claim. Your career, you've been surrounded by masculinity. What do you think about this New York Times piece on that? It's almost saying that there's no kind of masculinity that's acceptable.
Does anyone remember Little House on the Prairie?
Yes.
And Michael Lannon was Paul. And he raised 3 daughters. And he was rugged, and he was tough, and he could plow a field, and he could love his little daughters. What was wrong with that masculinity? Does anyone
over Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. Tough but tender. Does anyone remember Jesus? I mean, there are all these kinds of masculinity.
He wasn't a dad, though.
He wasn't a dad. He was a son. We do know he was a son. I don't understand this obsession with trying to label certain kinds of masculinity, and in particular, doing it to. She's directing this at like young men. She interviewed 20-somethings, and these guys were they're trying to figure it out. And so I just don't understand why you would do this to people, and you would sort of bubble wrap them. She says that we have more toxic masculinity. Listen, we see more effeminate men now than we ever have before. So the fact that she claims that men are feeling pressured to be super uber JJ Watt type of masculine, that's just evidently not true. I mean, there's no evidence to that, quite to the contrary.
No, in fact, that's why people are seeing like masculinity come back, is because metrosexuality had been the thing for so long.
Let these boys figure it the hell out on their own. They can do that.
Yeah. I don't care what part of the monologue you comment on, whether it's Howard Stern or the New York Times article, but you must make some kind of reference or an analogy to cooking or in the kitchen.
Always, because as I was watching that, all I was thinking about was like soy-studded gruel or porridge. I had to throw myself in there, although I'm not wearing a dress. The thing is, this is the calculus, right? This is the framework, the equation that they use, and this can be applied to any industry, any part of life. Is that they want to redefine it, right? And they want you to be eating whatever they're telling you have to eat, whether it's fake meat, right? And then they pump it down your throats and they put tons of money into it, billions of dollars in private equity money, and then the people are like, we don't want to eat this, we want the real meat, and then they go bankrupt, right? And then they move on to the next thing. And it's happening really for two reasons, in my opinion. Is number one is that you've got a lot of perverts who want to dress up as women, and they want to be able to justify that, as we've seen, right? Howard Stern is one of them. He's one step away from transing himself. Look at his hair. Look at his. He's going to have like a caramel-coated Adam's apple for Halloween, and try and get rid of it. But then the second reason is that we're just lazy. Nobody wants to work out, right? Nobody wants to do the work anymore. We've been coddled by big government, and nobody wants to actually put in the time to try and protect themselves. They have no agency. And so you've got all these people who go to school and spend $150,000 a year on comparative literature degrees, and they're like, let's wordsmith this so we can change society and allow everybody to be lazy.
Adam, speaking of lazy.
Yes.
I honestly do not know who listens to Howard Stern anymore, but Kamala went on that show because men listen to him.
I don't know what happened to Howard Stern. I mean, the guy's got less balls than the Hezbollah Beeper Club, but like you would think that like at least he would ask questions. They didn't ask him. I mean, they didn't ask her anything. I mean, she didn't even talk about how she actually was for transgender surgery for illegal immigrants in the prison, which, by the way, would be a great reality show. Like Locked Up used to be abroad. Yeah. But he did ask her, he said, if Trump wins, will you leave the country? And, she already has the accents down.
Yes.
And if she goes to Mexico, she could high-five people on the way in, she could just, but, I mean, at least ask her something, even, like, clarify the lies. Like, I want to know if she worked at McDonald's. Like, if she did lie about working at McDonald's, they should name a burger after her called the McFib.
Yeah. eBay. All right.
I'll leave on that one.
Yeah. Kat, it seems like every month there's some article about masculinity.
Yeah.
Is it just like, just an apple you could just take a bite out of every month and just spit it out as an article?
I think so, because I think what they all fail to consider is that people, men or not, are individuals.
Yes.
There's. Thank you. Yes. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, so my husband loves skincare.
Yeah.
He also fought in a war.
Yeah.
Which I would say, being an Army Ranger is pretty masculine.
Yeah. He fought for the right to use skincare.
But I had a great. I did Mike Rose podcast as part of my book club, and we talked about this, which is funny because we had to rush from the airport, and my husband had worn my merch to the airport, which was a sweatsuit that says "Soup Girl" on it.
Shapper, who was on not too long ago, he reminded me of something that I had not thought about in forever. Do you remember when I had that water dumped on me in like 2015?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, someone came up to me, dumped water on me, ran away. And he came up to me and he said, and nobody did anything?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, nobody did. He's like, you need to stop hanging out in Brooklyn with all those I didn't really know just how much he was correct about that.
No, it is true. When you see a lot of the stuff that's going on is videos. There are people just filming it, and they're dudes. Like put your phone down and do something.
Yeah, and also Howard Stern, it's the fact that he didn't realize he was being a jerk is so funny.
Yeah.
Like saying he would vote for a wall. That's like rolling over next to the girl you took home from the bar and being like, just so you know, you can be anyone.
Yeah. So true.
It's
all right. Up next is Kamala's spouse, a hellish louse.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.
Happy Monday, everybody. All right, let's get started. Barack Obama met with Joe Biden and allegedly told him Donald Trump would win if Biden didn't make changes. Biden replied, "Thank you, son. Just park the car over there." Because, he doesn't know where he is. Speaking of the president, he has now presided over a record-breaking 11 embassy evacuations. His second broken record after most kids sniffed in 1 hour. Disgusting. 2 Canadian men who were switched at birth 70 years ago finally received a formal apology from the government. Justin Trudeau can relate after just finding out his dad is Fidel Castro. I don't know. According to new research, dogs can understand the meaning of nouns. They're also pretty good at understanding commands like sit. I don't get it. A new report finds that inventories at pawn shops are exploding, which could be a sign that times remain tough for many Americans. The good news? I just bought Claudine Gay's glasses. The new massive government spending bill signed Saturday bans flying pride flags at our embassies around the world. But then how will you find the best spots for brunch, asks Hamas. That's how you find the best brunch spots in New York. You look for the pride flags. Figured I'd explain it. A new poll finds that church attendance has declined for most religious groups. I guess my nude hits on Fox and Friends weekends are paying off. A new study shows that playground bullies grow up to earn more in middle age, which makes sense. Adults tend to have more lunch money. Did you know that today is International Waffle Day? No wonder Brian Stelter is letting all his calls go to voicemail. Because he's fat. And finally, the FDA has agreed to remove posts warning against using ivermectin to treat COVID-19. But the agency still recommends you wear a mask if you're a horse's ass. All right. Let's go monologue. So, a Berkeley professor is under fire for once again telling the truth. In an online student-teacher forum, Professor Jonathan Shuchuk responded to a student seeking dating advice by saying, if you want a girlfriend, get out of the Bay Area. Solid advice, but it's the same advice I'd give someone seeking not just a decent date, but a decent apartment, a place to park without your windows getting smashed, and a sidewalk that's not an obstacle course of human turds. Get out of the Bay Area. It works for everything. Then the professor continued, quote, almost everywhere else on the planet is better for that digging. You'll be shocked by the stark differences in behavior of women in places where women are plentiful versus their behavior within artillery distance of San Jose and San Francisco. Now, maybe it's not the best idea to ask your college professor for dating tips. You wind up as lonely as me at an ugly man's convention. But the professor makes a good point. In an area where options are scarce, you end up with fewer choices. Better to have the odds stacked in your favor. That's why I hit on women in the Planet Fitness locker room. Now, I don't want to speak for Shoe Chuck, although somebody probably needs to, because by now, Gavin Newsom must have a SWAT team surrounding his house. But really, what the professor is professing was simply the law of supply and demand. Apparently, it's his belief that there are fewer women in the area than straight males would like. And reading between the lines, that the women who are there may be slightly difficult. Translation, the personality of Joy Behar with the body of Joy Behar. It's a type of female who thinks traditional means growing free-range armpit hair. No, I agree. To us, this is simple math, but to the left, it's shockingly chauvinistic. Of course, the outrage that followed was as predictable as finding Kilmeade crying in the restroom. Women students hyperventilated that they were being objectified, but some of them should be so lucky. The only thing objectifying them are their cats. And God forbid if one of these girls slips and falls, then they'll be the cat's fancy feast. It is funny, though. Women feel objectified when you desire them, but now they're objectified when you try to get away from them. Now, as someone who is often objectified, I can tell you that denying the basic reality that most women love men does women no good. I try to tell them to resist the desire to smother me in whipped cream, but it only hurts them more. But denying this basic truth of the sexes isn't liberating or fulfilling. It's what leads to Saturday nights alone, writing Trey Gowdy erotica. I know. But it also leads to a miserable political party. Don't take my word for it. Here's James Carville, a longtime Democrat strategist. Quote, there are too many preachy females. Don't drink beer. Don't watch football. Don't eat hamburgers. The whole talk is about how women and women of color are going to decide this election. ... 48% of the people that vote are males. What Carville is describing is what Michael Malice calls the awfuls, affluent white female liberals. And this is their dunce cap. Their main currency in life is not happiness, but outrage. They traffic in oversized empathy without the controls supplied by piggish, unthinking Neanderthal men. See, we men know our faults. We get it. We're callous. We rarely cry. We prefer boxing over book clubs. But our flaws are married to our strengths. We think about consequences, often to an extreme. Remember how every man was talking about the decline of the Roman Empire for months while women just looked at them confused? That's what men do. We see down the road, then buy a gun, take a self-defense class, install a bucket toilet in the game room. Women's strengths, empathy and feeling, are wonderful, but unchecked, you end up in a weird place. And so do men. Like, say, competing in a women's swim meet. That's the irony. It's the delusional empathy toward the latest causes that end up hurting women most, whether it's in crime, immigration, sports, and even relationships. You can only go so far cheering on the demise of society because it makes you feel something. And so the miserable mavens are willing to overlook what great men can do because great men aren't nice. Here's journalist Kara Swisher on Bill Maher's show slamming Elon Musk.
He's a complicated guy.
Oh, okay, sure, why not?
Well, I mean...
How about he's just not a complicated
complicated guy. He's just a jerk.
And I can easily prove he's a complicated guy because yesterday I saw on the news somebody who was paralyzed, who was giddy with happiness because he was being able to play video games with his mind.
Yep.
That came from Neuralink. That's Elon's company, and so did my car, and so you know.
I like those Elon. I like Tesla Elon.
That's
I like
right.
Neuralink Elon. I
Right.
even like Hyperloop Elon. It's Twitter/X Elon.
I agree.
Imagine how many quadriplegics heard that and wish they could give her the finger. But an awful like Swisher would happily dispense with all that male achievement, you know, because he's a big jerk. But maybe, Kara, being indifferent to your feelings is necessary when saving the world, something Swisher will never be capable of doing, as she's too busy getting mad over tweets. So, of course, by now, the professor has been forced to meet with school officials, then issue a groveling apology stating that he didn't mean to blame the blameless. Sorry, Jonathan, but yeah, you did, and you were right over the target, buddy. Because whoever the kid was who got your advice, you did him a favor. You told him the truth, that they're not blameless. Angry, hyper-liberal women in the Bay Area are scaring off what would be their best partners, and so they're left alone with their causes. And if they want attention, they'll have to poop in public just like everyone else. So we're left to ask why. Does it really make sense for the Democratic Party to constantly villainize 50% of the electorate? Look, men may not be the better half, but they're half. So why not meet us halfway? And we'll put...
Zine, you can stream local news, sports, and events from all over the country. Zine, always local, always free.
And we'll pick up the bill. Tonight's guest, I'm pretty sure he once tried to sell me a used Camry. Fox News contributor Tom Shalhoub. She's got more fans than a Home Depot. Outkick host Charlie Arnold. Before his shows, people are asked to remove their belts and shoelaces. Writer and comedian Joe DeVito. And she once ordered a salad bowl and fell in. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor Kat Tipp. Tom, you were quite the Lothario before you got married.
That's right.
You were all over the...
He's laughing at that, Greg.
I know.
I love that you use the word Lothario. That's great.
Yeah, so I don't even know if I pronounced it correctly, actually. I've never actually said that word out loud. Tom, did the professor say anything wrong?
He just said, not for nothing, women in the suburbs are nicer than in the Bay Area. And then every woman in the Bay Area was like, like they want him fired. I mean,
Yes.
they're gonna keep coming after this guy. And look at him. He's not exactly a macho man.
No.
This is the kind of guy me and Joe beat up after hot yoga class. But I've said it for years, Greg. Women are out of control. They are out of control.
Yes. Are they out of control?
Out of control, Greg.
In what way?
Well, they've been fed this diet of girl power and victimology, and they're inebriated on it. It's like being on uppers and downers at the same time. And these women here are great, but they're on fire, Greg. Admit it. I mean, women are on fire.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, take a
We're
look
not
at
Bay Area women.
right, but just any woman around here, just take a look at them, Greg. Do they look like they're afraid of anyone?
No.
No,
they're
not.
confident.
They're living it up.
Yes.
But, remember a couple of years ago they had that, that big freak out over women came out and said, sorry, not sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, not sorry. I'm tired of saying sorry. And it's like, when do you say sorry? They're like, I'm not going to apologize for being a woman in the workforce. And it's like, I've never heard you apologize. I haven't heard a woman apologize since Mary Tyler Moore threw that hat up in the air.
That is how old he is. Even the audience didn't get that reference. Yeah, Minneapolis. Back when that city mattered. Charlie, okay. As a woman...
Yes.
Or you say you are.
Promise.
Yes, what is your take on this analysis?
Well, I think that
like you had mentioned, I think the professor was spot on. His goal as their teacher is to give them the best information possible so that they can be successful in the real world, and he did just that, so I would give them props. When you look at a lot of the women in the Bay Area, specifically the story that came up this week about Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, she's probably out of their age range, so I'm not sure that they would go for her, but she just donated $640 million more out of her fortune to extreme left causes, helping illegals, migrant criminals, trans athletes. And I think the word delusional empathy really describes it, because these are sects of life that she'll never have any real life crossover with, yet she has all of this empathy for and she wants to support. I just think it's wrong, and I think that a lot of women don't allow themselves to be treated like women. There was one video on TikTok recently. A girl was treated to some drinks on a date, and she said, "Oh my gosh, the feminism just suddenly left my body." I mean, once women realize what it's like to be treated as a woman, maybe they'll start acting differently.
Joe, imagine that you were actually dating a woman.
Go on.
Yes. If you were going on this date, and I know this is hard for you to think about, do you worry that you would not be able to please them because they have such a defensive posture towards men?
This is a rather specific question. I'm just glad, let's call these women awfuls, okay? Because these women have been calling me awful for years. It's nice to be in favor. This is the part, first thing I want to say is, this professor screwed up. Why is he on a chat group or whatever this is, with his students talking about dating tips at Berkeley? First mistake was bringing up even heterosexual dating tips.
Yeah.
He's already in hot water mentioning that. So I think he screwed up doing that, but he makes a good point. Because no one wants to be with, you hear some of these women say things like, I'm a boss, no one tells me what to do. It's very, very masculine energy. But then when the stuff hits the fan, they say, why don't you guys man up? What do you want from us?
Yes.
You know, and I look at it and I say, you can't have both of those things.
They'll say, women rule the world. Oh yeah, drop a spider on them.
That's true. That's true.
Beyonce will just be running like crazy into traffic.
And no one, the truth is, whether you're a male or a female, no one wants to date someone who complains constantly, who's always angry, who's on antidepressants, whether you're a college student or you're a woman who's read my Tinder profile.
All right, Kat. I don't want this to devolve into women bashing. As I said in my monologue, men have their faults. It's just so you have to realize your faults. Did this man, the professor, make a mistake?
I could not agree more with you that women with masculine energy are disgusting. I did, okay, the one thing that you said that I was like, come on, you said men think about consequences. Have you ever seen Jackass?
That's true.
How many women were on that cast?
No, it's a good point.
My sorority sister is actually on that cast now.
So, but that's very new, okay? You drive past the Venn diagram of more of accidents, crashes, whatever. But obviously, I love men, or else I'd kill myself doing this job and working here on the show. But I personally don't feel at home in either party, because I do think about consequences, and the government's gotten so big. And both, that's why I always have to go libertarian, because I think actually quite a bit about the fall of the Roman Empire, and I actually thought that everybody actually did. But yeah, I don't know. You lost me on just that one, but other than that,
I guess the thing is, men are more likely to take risks with their lives than women will, because women are biologically...
They're also more likely to take risks with their genitals.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
I've seen Maury as well.
Yes. I don't even... I guess I should just go to break.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Republicans are one vote away from a nationwide abortion ban. Kirsten Gillibrand will stop them.
They say, Israel says, Israelis planning to come to Sri Lanka are advised.
Here is the brand new Japanese humanoid robot named Android Anne, unveiled at the Six-Wake Roppongi event in 2024. She became the centerpiece of the exhibition, captivating all attendees with her remarkable realism. The robot was designed to mimic human appearance and movements as closely as possible. Anne has smooth motions and skin that feels indistinguishable from that of a human. This robot is planned to be used in entertainment, marketing, or as an interactive guide in commercial settings like shopping malls or exhibitions. Developers also intend to enable Anne to speak by connecting her to artificial intelligence. Given her highly realistic and beautiful facial expressions, the ability to converse freely could make this robot the first in the world to compete with real women for men's hearts. Aria is a humanoid robot developed by the American company Real Bodix. Aria was created to provide users with an interactive and realistic companion with extensive capabilities for communication and entertainment. The robot has a highly realistic design, thanks to the use of high-quality materials, such as silicone and thermoplastic elastomer, and attention to detail, including skin texture and facial features. Aria is equipped with advanced artificial intelligence that allows her to engage in conversations, answer questions, and adapt to the user's interests. Built-in servo motors enable facial expressions and gestures, allowing the robot to express various emotions and perform simple head movements. The speech recognition and synthesis system enables Aria to perceive voice commands and respond to them, with the ability to choose different voices and accents. The features include the ability to hold conversations, learn, and adapt to the user's preferences. Here's Maria Bot, a world-class social AI that can interact with humans as a sentient being. She is based on the character from the Fritz Lang's classic 1927 sci-fi film, Metropolis. However, this Maria Bot is atoning for the sins of her evil ancestor by being an ambassador for human-robot relations. Maria Bot can interact with humans in a very real way. She resembles a human from the shoulders up, has complex facial expressions, head movements, and eyes capable of recognizing emotional cues. Since she is modular, she can appear as any race and change her voice. The robot engages in conversation on a variety of subjects using AI to process and synthesize information in order to make her own decisions on how to speak and engage. She does this by collecting data through conversation, direct data inputs, such as books or articles, and through internet sources. This means people can take the microphone and have a conversation with her. She is real artificial intelligence, not just a usual chat box. She evolves in her ability to build harmony with people and in intelligence as she learns.